what I see on dealers now is I started picking away at this and I get obsessed about these things. And I start looking at the data. There's 70% approximately of customers that have a trade-in. But we're watching now nationally, the trend is on new car transactions, 43% of new car transactions have a trade and 28% of used car transactions have a trade-in. So where are all these other cars going?
Hello and welcome to the Walk Around podcast powered by JM&A Group. My name is Mark Spota, one of your hosts, joined by Jonathan Jordan. Hello again, Jonathan.
Hello.
And with us is the one, the only, Brian Kramer, with a new title, EVP of Dealer Growth and Success, of course, at Cars Commerce. Brian, that's a big title.
It is.
How
And
are you feeling?
I would add former JM partner alum.
Yes, former dealer.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Your journey has been quite interesting since you were on the retail side. And tell us, how has it been? What are you looking to do now at Cars Commerce?
So obviously in any business and having looked at it from the dealer side and now looking at it from this side, I'm looking at everything from the dealer's lens. I'm obviously, dealer growth and success. And I'm realizing that in most cases, like everybody here at NADA is all about selling units, adding, revenue and ARPD and all the things that go along with that. But I'm actually modeling what I'm doing. What Alex Vetter created this role for me as is to really engage the dealers, make sure they're using our products. There's only so many things you can sell to dealers. And I think that every single person here has sold them probably more than they should.
Right.
Now, in this, moving forward, I want to make sure that they're using what they're supposed to be using, simplifying, consolidating, and making sure they're getting their money's worth out of it. No different than if you send in a specialist and you're making sure that you're adding value and there's somebody that's checking on things. And I've been in those conversations where, hey, if you're not going to do this and follow the process, then, it might not be the best solution for you. And being that transparent with dealers on our products that, we might not be everything to everyone on every single product, but this is what we stand for. This is what we're all about. And dealers winning is obviously going to generate success for the dealers, and their success is going to be our success. And we've got a great culture at Cars Commerce, but I'm going to make it so that it's simplify the dashboard, get them data easily, because it's all out there, but it's like in Stone Eagle, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's all easy to read. With a lot of our data and a lot of everybody else's data out here, it doesn't connect, it's not integrated, and we don't look at it from the dealer's lens, probably because nobody's really been on the dealer side. So I know my frustrations as a GM coming in 2 hours early to have to build all these spreadsheets, export them, pivot tables, and all this stuff just to get a basic report. That now I'm in a position with the resources to be able to simplify that and make dealers' lives easier instead of harder.
Mm-hmm.
That's, first of all, that's flattering.
It is.
Brian. So
You guys are the standard.
Yeah, thank you. And we agree in a lot of ways. You mentioned, and I can attest to this, I knew Brian when he was a general manager, and he was the guy that came in 2 hours early and got that all done, and certainly a great partner and somebody we've always looked to as a
standard, right?
A standard, somebody who's really smart and understands our business from a retail perspective. But I'm curious, you've been at a retail now for how long?
2.5 years.
Do you miss it?
Of course.
What do you miss? Yeah.
I look at, especially there's no better deal than being a Toyota dealer in Southeast Toyota. That's like the pinnacle of automotive retail. But even in any store or any market, there's certain things, and there's certain things that I don't miss, right? But what I miss the most is like the adrenaline rush of a month-end close when you're a Black Friday event and you're, behind, for whatever reason, you're not on pace and you've got to rally everybody together, save a deal meetings, spiffs, Saturday morning meetings, getting everybody pumped up, appointments, confirming them, and then having a packed showroom and being at a my utopia is and I still do this today, is sitting at a Toyota sales tower, like an air traffic controller, watching everything develop, seeing who's TOing, who's done the EMIs and the early manager intros, where are the F&I managers. Before I strip out the reserve, they better be TOing the deal. And just looking at it like you know, like a battlefield, you know. And I don't want to be all dramatic about it, but or a better analogy is probably a football. You know, like an offensive coordinator
Yeah,
watching
that
everything
sounds much
develop.
better, Brian.
We're not at war with the consumer, right, Brian?
No, but you know, like having a game plan or
Yeah.
but having everything choreographed, just like a great football game going out, and everybody's blocking, tackling, and you're watching it all develop and everything unfold. It's you know, there's big volume stores.
There's a rush to it.
Yes,
It's a
right?
beautiful thing.
Yeah, and there's really nothing better. It's the closest thing you can get to a college sports or pro sports in the professional world. I think there's nothing. What other industry has that kind of action
Environment,
like that?
yeah.
That's why everybody's so fascinated, even outside of retail. Everybody wants to know. It's like the car dealership guy, and everybody wants to know what's the car business like, and they like to see, you know, under the hood.
Well, Jonathan and I were just talking about this. It's really amazing when you come to an NATA and you see how much business, how much activity and economics are generated from the sale of a car, right?
Oh.
And talking about 2025, you know, coming to NATA was not easy this year, obviously with the snow and the crazy weather and cancellations. Why did you think it was still important to be here?
Well, for multiple reasons. It's also the same thing that makes the dealer body so resilient. Is And it's amazing to me, not just the vendors, but the dealers that drove 14 hours and 9 hours, and every single person here has a story. And I think we'll be telling these for decades. Do you remember, you know, the New Orleans 2025
Oh, yeah.
NADA? And nobody's going to want to, all these young people 20 years from now are not going to want to hear about it. But we had to go uphill both ways, 11 inches of snow. But
Literally.
like, there's no quit in this industry. And I think that every single person I'm talking to is just crazy optimistic. And they're like, look, I just had to get there. And it was like, you know, burning the ships in the harbor, going back was not an option. And everybody, I mean, I can't believe how many people are here.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, we have seen really, really significant activity given all the challenges, which again, to your point, is just so reflective of our business, right? The
matter what.
resiliency, the determination to get here. So let's get into 2025 a little bit, Brian. What as you sit back in your role and your background in retail, what do you think? Well, first of all, what are you paying attention to? What kinds of trends and things that are happening? And, you know, in turn, what should dealers be thinking about?
So I'm looking at used vehicle acquisition, and, you know, obviously I'm biased towards that, but I think every dealer needs to be looking at CarMax and Carvana are acquiring 2 million cars a year from consumers.
That's an amazing stat. I don't even think I realized 2 million a year.
So there's going to be 15 million cars that are transacted, traded in at dealers in 2025 is what they say the number is going to be. So using that number, which it could be a little bit less than this, the numbers I've seen have been between 12.2 million and 15 million. But if you use that number, and then there's a bunch that are wholesale to get up to like 38 million, you know,
Sure.
peer-to-peer for sale by owner. But when you take a look at just at the 15 million, CarMax is going to do 1.3 million, and Carvana is pacing on over 700,000. Then you've also got CarMax Max Offer, which 2 quarters ago was 30,000 transactions that dealers let CarMax have their cars. They didn't just let them have the cars; they let them have the data. And then last quarter it was 39,000, and it's pacing a lot higher than that this quarter.
Yeah, we talked to Eric Flo a little bit about vehicle
Yeah.
acquisition, and that is certainly something on his mind.
What I see on dealers now is I started picking away at this, and I get obsessed about these things. And I start looking at the data. There's 70% approximately of customers that have a trade-in. But we're watching now nationally, the trend is on new car transactions, 43% of new car transactions have a trade, and 28% of used car transactions have a trade-in. So where are all these other cars going? And big part of it is they're not praising enough cars. They're not putting enough numbers on sight unseen appraisals. They don't want to count sight unseen in their look to book or whatever, because they all want to have a 50% look to book. So they're not putting enough data in.
So is it a process shortcoming on the dealer side, or is it just access to the right data, or where do you think is the root cause here?
I think a big part of it is that's the way we've always done it. So everybody's always put purchase appraisal in their appraisal tool, and those don't count. We're only counting showroom appraisals. But imagine if you didn't count your e-com leads in your closing ratio, or you don't count phone ups. You know, nobody's counting all of those, and but I'm at a 50% look to book. Okay, well, why are you buying so many cars at the auction? Or why do you have no used car inventory? And from a retention standpoint, you want your brand, all these cars coming back to your store, just like losing them to Tesla or somebody else like that. Now they have your customers' data. And when they go on Carvana's website or CarMax's website, what they're also doing is they're putting their PII on there. So now they can retarget and market to your customers. So every dealer needs to make their trade-in online experience, which is also a technology issue.
Mm-hmm.
They need to make it as frictionless and easy as CarMax or Carvana. And that's what the big public retail groups are doing. But anybody who's especially like a single point or a smaller store, they have to realize that it's so for whatever the $1,000 or $800 you're under allowing or trying to be risk averse by not giving them everything over the phone or online, you're giving away hundreds of thousands of dollars by not just giving the client the information, because now you can't retarget them. Most efficient way of advertising, you can't remarket them, you can't do social media campaigns, and you can't do save a deal meetings. And the trade is the epicenter of the whole thing. It's all about service retention. It's TLE. So if they're not focused on that, it morphs into everything else. Because if you're not capturing the trade, you're probably not capturing financing either. And if you're not being transparent, because I'm seeing you guys have better data than I do, but I'm seeing 50% finance capture. Credit unions are grabbing it. USAA dealers need to control that. For the profitability standpoint, that's the short term. But more importantly, for their long term data, just like there's a lot of exposure and risk on the data. People are uploading their reports and their client history into Chat GPT, Google Gemini. Now it's out there. And when you upload that, it might make your life easier that week, but you're also giving that away and they can do whatever they want to do with it.
That's a theme we have heard, I think, pretty regularly. Right, Jonathan?
Yeah. Brian, I want to go back to something you said that I just can't stop thinking about. You mentioned a stat about how many cars dealers were selling to CarMax. Is that
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
What was that number? Or is there a percentage
Last
maybe?
quarter, 39,000, which was up 9,000 from the quarter previously.
In Europe, is there a good reason to do that? Like if you're a dealer?
No. So let's break down the math on that. First of all, there's flawed data. And a lot of my vendor partner competitors use fragmented data. And like, for instance, on an AccuTrade competitive set, we might have 48 on ours and a competitor's tool might have 16 because of you're not using this website or all these different reasons, right? But if CarMax is putting that much money in the car, there's a reason. Because when you look at their earnings, they're averaging $2,500 a copy on the front. They're averaging $1,200 in wholesale profit. So the dealers see that they're paying them $500, and they're like, "Oh wow, that's easy. Oh, they're going to pick it up, and wow, yeah, I'll just let them have it because they're putting stupid money in the car." But they're not putting stupid money in the car. They're putting the right money in the car. They one number. They don't get conservative. They just play the aggregate, the volume game. And by putting more numbers on more cars, that's the key. The more cars you appraise, the more cars you will sell. And then you don't have to buy cars at the auction. And you don't have to take all that margin compression. And those cars at the auction can't get, sell warranties. The LTV is not as strong. And all the other stuff that goes, consumer acquisition is the key, especially with like a Nissan, Stellantis, or Mitsubishi store. It's the difference between being profitable and not profitable right now.
So, Brian, one other topic I know that's top of mind for you is you mentioned data and data security. What should dealers be thinking about in 2025 and beyond regarding data and security?
So this is top of mind on Alex Vetter's radar. I haven't said this publicly, but every dealer should take a hard look at all their vendor contracts. And this is something that we're making a priority. We're going to have a bill of rights of what we're doing for dealers to protect their data. Everybody should look at the EULA, or the End User License Agreement, with every one of their syndication tools, their third-party marketplaces, and take a look to see who can monetize and sell their data and who they can sell it to. And it's one of these things that's going to be on like page 8 in the fine print, way buried in like a 6 font, really tiny, that you got to take a magnifying glass to be able to read. But there is a lot of data sharing going on, and people are making a lot of money off dealers' data, and that's their data. So we're preserving that, but we're going to advertise that, and we're going to pull the curtain back on that so that it's public. Because it's been one of these things, don't ask, don't tell, and nobody talks about it. But now I haven't been on the dealer side, and now I see what's going on in the industry. I'm planning on exposing it.
If you're a dealer listening to this, how do they make better use of their data?
Well, first they've got to make sure that it's secure. They got to see who has access to the data, um, because over the years you get people access to your DMS. So you want to make sure and see what they're pulling, what fields they're pulling, and do you want them pulling all those things? And there's many good cases. I used reverse risk in Stone Eagle,
Sure.
and that made my life easier. And they were secure with it. And I'm happy to give that to them. But there's a lot of other people that don't necessarily use that for the best reasons, and they're getting more access than they probably need. But the dealers also, well, there's two factors to this. It's getting the customer's data to begin with off the website, and getting their trade information, and getting their credit app, and being the easiest path of least resistance for how you want your process to gather all that data. Data is the crude oil of the next 20 years, or next 100 years, really. And the real monetization, even though somebody might be selling their data, which they need to stop, and they'll sell it to, let's say, another used car company, or they'll sell it to a credit union. And the credit union will start calling those customers and trying to finance them. And a lot of dealers don't realize that that's what's happening with their data. And it's all written right into the EULA that they sign. They just don't read, who reads the 8 pages of fine print, right?
Right.
So if they're not securing that, but the more expensive thing than even that is the excess marketing that they're spending. And I didn't really realize this until now I'm on this side with Cars Commerce, to realize how much less and how much more efficient you can get if you have control of your first party data. You can optimize your SEO. You can get more intelligent with how you're doing all that stuff. But you can actually cut your ad spend by, I'm EVP of a marketing company, so I probably shouldn't be saying this, but you could cut your ad spend in half, or shift it to fixed ops, or do different things like that. Dealers don't have to be spending as much money if they're more responsible like that, but they're going to
And
have
they can be more targeted.
way more targeted, but they're going to have to be okay giving trade values and quoting payments and just being transparent with that stuff. That's so much more valuable.
That's something we talk about all the time.
Why-
Right?
Why can't we get over that as an
Yeah.
industry? Like, why are we so afraid of transparency, of
price?
of giving, putting a number on a car when I can't touch it? Like, there's all these things that, like, we've always done it this way. And you said that earlier, but like, what else?
I think so. I was guilty of this at some points in my career, even recently. And they would say, I can't, I needed to get an exact number. And I go, well, if they live 10 miles away, no, you need to get stronger on the phone. Give me the phone. I'll show you how it's done. You're just getting weak and I don't want to hear it. Right. But here's the reality.
I just got a taste of what it's like to work for Brian Kramer.
we just heard sales desk, Brian.
And, I get on the phone and I get them in and say, see, it's not that hard, but that wasn't the best use of my time, and I can't be everywhere at once, and neither can the managers. So these managers that say it's not that hard, just do it, they can't be everywhere at once. And I thought I had a process. Here's a great example. I would require a price match from CarMax, and all of a sudden everybody has a CarMax price match. And I'm like, man, these guys are just dominating. And then I decided to put the sight unseen AccuTrade appraisal link in our CRM, text links in our digital retail tool, and just open it up. And my managers flipped out. You're just going to give all this out? I go, we're giving it out now. I just can't prove it. And immediately we stopped getting CarMax price matches. And I realized my process, because I was restricting all my ability for our salespeople to do it, they'll find a way, like Chaos Theory and Jurassic Park. And they found a way by using CarMax and coaching their customers to get on the website without us knowing about it. Before you come in and do that, and they'll even beat it by $500. So instead of them getting all that data to beat it by $500, how about I just put the right money in the car and skip that whole step?
Brian, another trend we've been talking a lot about, obviously, you mentioned digital retail and the concept of engaging with the consumer online, right? And the amount of research that's available to them and information. And then, I think it's a pretty common understanding at this point in time, after years of talking about digital retail, that consumers still want that in-store, for the most part, experience.
Absolutely.
Right? There's a subset that still want to transact completely online, but the overwhelming majority this is a people business. It's a large purchase. They want to touch and feel the car and have that human interaction. So from your vantage point, having been on the retail side and now on the commerce side, in terms of the intranet, what is key now to move forward and make that process as better as possible? Because I think we see a lot of improvement, but I don't know that we're totally, dialed in on how a consumer can feel seamless going from online to in-store.
So you guys remember how obsessed I was about this, and I wanted to go
I do.
completely digital.
I remember when you were in the metaverse,
Right.
Brian. Remember
And we
that?
went. That's going.
I remember
all in.
the printer video.
Driving it over with my FJ
Yeah.
Cruiser. Lost that in a hurricane. It's actually that's a sad memory, that FJ Cruiser. I lost
Stinks.
it. So yeah, you know how special those things are. You can't replace them. As I think back, and you got Amazon autos across, the way over here, which everybody's like, oh, now it's happening again, right?
Right.
And once I was able to go all the way to the metaverse, and I kept on pushing it and pushing it, I'm like, I want to be prepared for this before it happens. And even after we did it, only 5% of people went all the way through digitally. And what I find is that they didn't want to buy the car digitally. They wanted to not waste time and have to sit there waiting for people to manually enter it from this technology and take it out of the CRM, print it, and then type it into Route 1 or Dealer Track and waste all this time. They're sitting there waiting, not being informed as to what's going on, and just staring at the wall while somebody's in a back room appraising the car, submitting the deal, restructuring it, getting a call back, or getting the docs ready, or whatever that is. That's the part they didn't want to do. And it's no different. I would say the best analogy is like going to a doctor's office. In my doctor's office, they said, look, when you arrive, it's either going to take 45 minutes for you to fill out this paperwork, or you can click on these 3 links and we'll get you right in 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So I fill it out every time because I don't want to take 45 minutes when I get there.
But here's the thing. I actually did this recently, filled out the links, got all my information in. When I got to the doctor's office, they still gave me a piece of paper to fill out with the same exact information. So the point is there that not everyone is figuring it out.
No, it's like what David Spizak says. He goes, what if because the first time you ever scanned a check to deposit it, right? Digital. And you went through the whole thing. You're like, wow, that's amazing. And then it said, okay, now you still have to come down to the bank and drop off this check. It's still not complete until you actually physically come in. It makes no sense whatsoever. And that's worse. You're better off not even telling them that there's anything digital. Like in your analogy, you'd be better off just not even having a digital process.
Because now I'm frustrated. Why did I have to do this online, thinking I would be more efficient? And here I am having to do it anyway.
And most people don't have the continuity to connect the offline to the in-store.
Right. So what's holding back our industry?
Well, a lot of it's this tech stack stuff, not talking to each other. And that's one of the things that I'm going to do at Cars Commerce is even with our competitors, our direct competitors on direct products, and not, it took a minute to get a lot of our team members on board with this. I want to be agnostic. And even if we're all about the dealer, then I've got to be okay integrating with my direct competitor, even if I could lose market share, if that's what is best for the dealer. And that's not the way most people at this convention look at things. As it's an us versus them. And I think the answer to that question is really the answer to the digital retail piece. Everybody here, like with Amazon, I hear people, it's like black or white. It's either all digital or all out.
You made this point yesterday. It's not a either or.
Right. It's an and.
Yeah.
And we got we were thinking about like this a decade ago, right? Like you have your internet department and you have like every customer is a digital customer and most customers are showroom customers. And like, how do we tie those things together?
The Apple Store is the best seamless integration of the two. You can do parts of it online. You can do whatever parts in the showroom online that you want. And there's nothing they make you do. It's whatever you want to do or not do.
But is it also a matter of buying a phone or a computer is obviously much less complex than a car, or are we past that analogy?
We're past that.
We shouldn't be using that as a crutch.
No, and what I find is it's interesting in like service drive acquisition or vehicle buy centers. I always wanted to hire Starbucks people or people that are from the hospitality business, and I think that's the transition. Is that we used to have really strong closers, and you still need that in F&I, but I think you need more altruistic profiles in the showroom that are all about taking care of customers and helping them and like a Sherpa, kind of guiding them.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the biggest mistakes that we make is we, like vehicle buy centers, for instance, or service drive acquisition. Somebody will greet somebody, and we advertise. We buy cars. We buy any car. It's on the banners. It's everywhere, right? And the customer goes, I would like to know what my car is worth. Okay, perfect. What do you want to replace it with? And we're not fulfilling the initial
customers
obligation.
ask, right?
And here, let's go take a look at some inventory and figure out what you want to do next. And that's not what CarMax does. Or Carvana, they give them the number. And then, oh, by the way, we're going to drop you into the SRP page once we gave you the trade value and you gave us all your information. So now we can retarget you. We can put you into our My Garage feature and start, now we've got you and all your data to go along with it. And we can try to sell you insurance and and lending and all the other stuff that they do when that happens. But rather than go through that step, what dealers should be leveraging that and using the SEO optimization of all of those things that they have, the tools, the data that they have, which is a oil reserve underneath their dealership. By offering that stuff up, people are going to click, and it becomes clickbait all over their website, and that's how they get their ad spend down, their SEO spend. They become more relevant, and it's just so much more efficient if they just are transparent.
Well, Brian, we could talk to you all day, but we know you've got a busy day, the rest of the day ahead. Is there where do you want to engage with people? Tell them where, you're so active online. I'm sure you're always happy to reach out. Where's the best place? LinkedIn? Do you have a website you want to?
Our new website is www.carscommerce.inc. And if you're interested in dealer inspired websites, cars.com, marketplace, AccuTrade, our inventory piece, as well as the acquisition tool, our media solutions, you can just click on whichever one of those you want information on. Contact me on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Brian Kramer, YouTube, TikTok. It's my new jam.
We don't know. What's the future of TikTok, right?
Well, I was just with a gentleman in New Jersey who is filming his actual process, pulling the curtain back. George Saliba. Everybody should follow him on TikTok because it's amazing. But he's actually filming him. He films every appraisal with the customer so that people can see his process. So they don't have to ask what's going to happen when I arrive. They see
cool.
it. And so 6 months ago, he was generating 800 leads off of his stories on Instagram and TikTok. I was with him last night and I said it, I was saying the number. He goes, no, it's a lot more than that now. So on his stories, on his reels, he puts a link with the AccuTrade link in there. Would you like to know what your car's worth? As he's appraising somebody else's car, click here to get a number in 2 minutes or less. In the last 30 days, he's had 2,748 leads of Will Buy Your Car leads. Everybody's talking about the auction, the prices. He has more business than he can handle. So that he goes, I'm just buying them and wholesaling them because I can't handle that much inventory.
Wow. So, Brian, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We got to have you back again. This is I
love this setup you guys have here.
Yeah, look how legit we've become, right? The first time you were with us on the walk around, it was a little bit of a different setup. We were on Zoom, and now look at us.
This is legit.
Yeah.
Brian, this is cool.
Appreciate your time so much. Always value the insights you bring to us, to the industry. And if you haven't connected with Brian, he's such a great follow. Thank you for spending the time.
Thank you for having me.
We really appreciate you joining us today on the walk around, and we hope you enjoyed the episode. Please be sure to like, share, subscribe, and follow us. We look forward to seeing you next time on the walk around.